One of the biggest stories for the Thunder during the finals has been what they've decided to do with Isaiah Hartenstein's minutes, because their sort of big adjustment to open the series was to take him out of the starting lineup. The reason they did this is because between Indiana's speed and outside shooting, it'd be tough to keep up with their offense while having two bigs on the court. They prioritized getting another elite perimeter defender in the game, and with the way they opened, it certainly looked like the correct decision. When iHeart checked in though, you could see his immediate impact. On the very first possession, he set a high ball screen for Shea to turn the corner and get downhill for a layup. Then next time down, it's going to be a flat ball screen in the backcourt to get Nesmith off of Shea. Now he's getting into the offense with a more favorable matchup, and it doesn't take much for him to get a great shot off. About a minute and a half later, you're going to see them set up their offense with iHeart holding the ball up top. Shea cuts back door, he hits a tight window, and that collapses the entire defense, so with a couple quick passes, they're left with an open three. And then about a minute after that, Shea goes to an early isolation, gets a good look but misses, only for iHeart to grab a second chance and put it back up for points. In just this short 4.5 minute stint, we saw the entire package that makes him so important. Between the screening and the passing, he not only helps organize the offense, he actively helps create advantages for OKC's stars. And of course, through his ability to dominate the offensive glass, he's able to extend possessions and help the Thunder get extra shots. Let's focus on the offensive rebounding for a second, because that's been a very consistent theme throughout the series. When he's not setting a screen, he's probably spending most of his time in the dunker spot, and the Pacers haven't been able to match him on the glass. Through 5 games, he's averaging more than 5 offensive rebounds every 75 possessions. And in addition to OKC forcing all of those turnovers, that's played a pretty big role in them consistently dominating the possession game. As for OKC's actual offense, he's played a huge role in that as well, primarily as a screener. Most of their possessions have started with either J-Dub or Shea using a high ball screen, and it's clear just how much of an impact iHeart can make in these spots. This was especially prevalent in games 1 and 2, when the Pacers weren't as aggressive bringing help to Shea, so by setting a flat ball screen in the middle of the court and having him turn the corner with speed, they basically got deep paint touches at will. The reason this works so well is not only due to how good of drivers these guys are, but the fact that iHeart might be the best screener in the NBA. It starts with his understanding of angles. With the way he positions himself and flips his hips at the last moment, it's nearly impossible for defenders to fight over, which means that the ball handler is consistently attacking open space. The Pacers tried to close that space by moving the pickup point higher, so the Thunder countered by moving the screen higher. And by game 4, he was setting ball screens on the complete opposite side of the court, which only made it that much easier for these wings to turn the corner and get downhill with an advantage. This has been a perfect counter to Indiana's full court ball pressure. He's able to screen the primary defender off the ball 50 or more feet away from the basket, and all of a sudden the value is sort of negated. Because of the high pickup points off of screens, that means the big has to be ready to jump out. So in a way, you can almost think of iHeart as a sort of floor spacer, helping clear the paint for drives. Of course, when a screen lands and the big does pick up the ball, he's athletic enough to be a serious scoring threat on the roll, and he's a legitimately great passer, so when it all comes together, it looks like this. He lands a huge screen on Nembhard to force Turner onto the ball, then when he gets the ball in the short roll, he immediately drops it off to Caruso for an easy lay. Remember, the passing was the third big key in his value as an offensive player. And throughout multiple different points in this series, they've turned to him as the guy to organize their half-court offense. If there's ever a possession where the defense seems to have them figured out, or an attack leads to nothing, they'll get him the ball in the middle, start moving, and good things happen. For example, Shea tries to play one-on-one here, but he isn't able to create the separation he wants. iHeart moves to make himself available as an outlet, immediately hands it off to Caruso, and just like that, they've got a great look from the corner. So between these 3 skills, screening, passing, and offensive rebounding, he's arguably been OKC's 3rd most valuable offensive player in the finals. And what makes this so interesting is that the box score would probably tell you he's been a non-factor. He's only playing 20 minutes a game, averaging 4 points and 2 assists, but it's every little thing in between that the box score doesn't capture where he makes a huge difference. If you're looking for somewhere to get in on the NBA Finals action, I've got the perfect place. Kalshi is the first and only legal prediction market where you can trade on real-world events, and it's the only market in the US where you can trade on these games in all 50 states. If we take a look at the current site, you'll notice that you not only can trade on who's going to win Game 6, you can trade on the Finals MVP, who's going to win the series and how many games it'll take. For example, if you think OKC is going to win this series in 7, Kalshi gives you a 26% chance, meaning that $100 would return $385. But if that's not your thing, you can go for a hot dog eating contest or a Rotten Tomatoes score. The opportunities are endless. Kalshi has markets on almost everything: politics, movies, music, crypto, sports, and more. They have over 1 million users in all 50 states and have facilitated over $2 billion worth of trades. So put your money where your mouth is and sign up using my link in the description, and the first 500 traders that trade 100 contracts will get a free $10 credit. It's important to keep in mind that it wasn't iHeart's offense they were worried about. The reason they took him out of the starting lineup and reduced his minutes was to shore up their defense. By matching his minutes up with Thomas Bryant, he'll bring an immense defensive impact because that's when he's able to freely roam the court as a helper. He's great positionally, has good timing, and is a big vertical presence at the rim. The problem is that when the Pacers go with Turner or go small, now he has to cover a ton of ground, and that just simply isn't his strength as a defender. They've tried some pre-switching to keep him on the baseline during these minutes. Indiana involves all 5 players in their offense though, so he's still going to be forced to defend in space. When he's matched up with Turner, that's when they're going to put him in spread pick and roll action and create constant advantages. It's not like he's incapable of defending these actions. This is a legitimately great hedge to protect the paint. The problem is that when he recovers, he's trying to get back to one of the best 3-point shooting bigs we've ever seen. In Game 2, they went to a little bit of zone in an effort to protect him, but the Pacers used Turner's shooting ability to their advantage by having him flash up top, where there's nobody in position to close out. So they had to play these pick and rolls straight up, and when iHeart dropped back, that just left Turner with space to step into a jumper, or it left him with space to roll down the middle of the paint and put him on a poster. In addition to Turner scoring, the other risk with dropping against Haliburton is that it creates a 2-on-1 advantage, and there are few players better at capitalizing on those situations. So in Game 3, they abandoned the drop. Now he's going to be up at the level of the screen, either in a hedge or a switch. Instead of making him play a numbers game against Haliburton, they wanted their weak side help to zone up and play a numbers game against the roller, and that got rid of those easy looks for Turner. Real quick though, I want to go back to the end of the first quarter of Game 2, because this was the first time OKC implemented the double big lineup in this series, and we saw all of the benefits. They were very particular in the way they lined up these minutes with Thomas Bryant being on the court, meaning that one of Chet or iHeart would always be able to freely roam the baseline. All of a sudden, the Pacers weren't getting anything in the paint, and with both bigs in position to help, the other guys didn't have to leave shooters, resulting in really tough looks. There was another short stint in the third quarter of Game 3 with Bryant going up against 2 bigs, and it was the exact same thing with one of those bigs freely roaming to protect the rim, while they aggressively defended the 3-point line to not give up high percentage shots. Also in Game 3, they seemed to sort of figure out the whole double big thing against Turner. And that's because they got comfortable putting iHeart on Siakam or another wing and letting him freely switch while keeping Chet on Turner for the event that the Pacers go back to that spread pick and roll setup. So in Game 4, they finally made the decision to move him back into the starting lineup, and let's just say things didn't look so great for the Thunder. Another strategy they implemented that I really didn't touch on yet was always sending the low man over early to protect the rim, then having everyone else shift one pass over. Only, the Pacers moved the ball to literal perfection and consistently found open threes. Then whenever iHeart was put in ball screen action, he continued to either hedge or switch, and it wasn't necessarily him on the perimeter that was a problem, it was the fact that Siakam now had a smaller defender to seal off in the post for easy points. When Toppin checked in, that became the matchup, and when he screens, iHeart's going to go back to that drop, to which he hits a floater, and all that's to say the Pacers put iHeart in basically every action to open the game, got unconsciously hot, and scored 24 points in less than 6 minutes. What I love about the Thunder coaching staff is that they never panic though. After that offensive explosion from the Pacers, they could have easily switched things up for the rest of the game or reduced his minutes. but they stuck to their lineups, stuck to their coverages, and for the remaining 3 quarters, their defense looked incredible. Some of it is luck. That's definitely a factor. There were a few instances where iHeart gave up a great look from 3 and the shots simply didn't drop, but there were just as many instances of him executing a good switch, not giving up an advantage, and holding his own in isolation against one of Indy's guards. So by game 5, the defensive concerns felt solved. On the very first play, you're going to see iHeart drop down as the low man, then everybody's going to shift one pass up in a scramble to not give up a good look. Because he's matched up with Siakam, he has to defend a decent amount of perimeter isolations, and they trusted him to hold his own one-on-one. The Pacers tried putting him in action, made him close out to shooters, and he held up perfectly fine, which allowed him to stay on the floor to boost the offense. And when the Pacers brought in Tony Bradley, it was right back to square one with him freely roaming the court, protecting the rim, and providing an immense two-way presence. All things considered, the defense has been extremely up and down. There have been highs and there have been lows. But as the series has played out, they've found ways to mitigate some of those issues. Instead of matching him up with Turner, he's either on Toppin or Siakam. Instead of dropping, he's either hedging or switching. Instead of staying home on corners, they're sending the low man and rotating to force Indiana's role players into making tough decisions. And when you find a way to get value out of him defensively, especially in these double big lineups, with everything he provides on offense, it's clear why the Thunder signed him in the offseason and why he's played a big role in them being one win away from a championship. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out the Hoop Venue podcast and my social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Isaiah Hartenstein. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.